Right.
Oh,
Hello, everyone. We are in the studio the day after Chelsea beat Southampton 4-0 in the Premier League. The day after the Blueco protest, the Clear Lake protest, the Bowley, Barley, whatever you want to call it, protests. There was this sort of confusion before, wasn't it? There was different aspects. There was three things: Blueco out, change the model, directors out. I didn't see those three. I only saw Blueco out. So I don't think there was really that mixture and that variety that people thought would be there, which wouldn't have mattered anyway because people were still unhappy. You were still going to be able to protest. What's your thoughts on it, guys? I mean, where do we start? Where do we start?
I thought it was a better turnout than expected. I think, there's probably a little bit of pessimism about how many people would actually show given what's happened in previous protests that have been planned. There's been a pretty poor showing and nothing's really happened. This was a better turnout than expected. I reckon a couple hundred maybe. It's
Probably more than 200.
Yeah,
which is what was predicted.
it's hard to tell, but it certainly, I feel like it made an impact. It's been picked up by various different media outlets, and that's kind of all you can ask for, really. So you're never going to get a tangible outcome from a protest because it doesn't work like that. But they'll definitely be aware of it, and whether it makes any difference or not, only time will tell. But it's important that you keep the momentum going and you keep on doing it. I'm not saying do it every week, but you have it multiple times a season. You have it planned again for later on this season, and then if you're not happy with what happens in the summer, continuing into next season, etc. So you've got to keep the pressure on. There's no point doing this and then think, oh, it's going to be all right now. They're going to change their minds, because they're probably not. So I thought it definitely goes down as a positive, but this is just the beginning. Anyone thinking, oh, that's job done, or anyone thinking, oh yeah, that'll get them to change their minds is going to unfortunately be mistaken. But it was a positive for sure.
100%. What do you think about it, Nina?
Yeah, I agree. It was a start, and I think the most important thing is, like you said, they're aware, right? The noise was made, the fans were there, the banners were out, so there is no hiding from it. And I think that, at least it might put a little bit of pressure that, there are expectations to be met. I think it's quite important because some people were saying, well, we're still fourth, right? And a lot of people said don't protest now, but I think it's actually quite the opposite, because it will work in a way where it's like we don't want to wait till the end of the season where we're not in Champions League football, we've not, won a trophy, etc., and then have to do it and voice our concern. We don't want to go another season without Champions League football. So I think hopefully it adds that kind of layer of pressure there that expectations have to be met. We need to finish in the top four.
The thing is, as well, is people said, oh, you weren't doing this in December when you were a couple of points behind Liverpool. It would have had more weight to it at that point. But you just said the same thing there with fourth. I mean, we're actually, if you look at the numbers itself, we look like we're in a good position. And I'm sure the owners actually look at it and they're probably, in their own way, confused about it because of the way we are on the pitch. We're very much capable from a numbers standpoint of picking up those points. And you would think that we would be able to win the games, but that takes out of context the way that the team are playing, the way Maresca's...
The struggle of playing. Just the struggle. I mean, look, even if you look at the first kind of opening minutes, guys, we were struggling against Southampton. That's what makes me dread the upcoming fixtures, right? And I think that's the problem, because even if we have been doing well, which we have, we're quite lucky that other teams that were supposed to be competing with us at the same time had a bit of a drop off when we were doing good. Now, like yesterday, results have gone our way. Aston Villa lost, Bournemouth lost, so it gives us a little bit of leeway to make those mistakes. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't be trusting other clubs' downfalls when we've spent as much money as we have and we've been as ambitious as we have. We should be taking this top four really by the scruff of its neck from the get-go and maintaining it. And the fact that, there has been a bit of fluctuation recently, and, again, the games we've got coming up, they are tricky. So it is almost addressing the fact that what they did coming into the season wasn't enough, right? Because we are struggling as we are. A few injuries and we no longer have that depth, and worse, the quality we have there, it's been lacking as well, right? And you can still see the void in the team. So what happens when we come to play the top sides that won't let us play out the back as miserably as we did at times yesterday. What happens when we're facing an opposition that's got press from the front that will force mistakes out of our defenders again? So there's worrying things that we're almost looking ahead to, and us fans, I think, clever enough to realise that what we've got at the moment isn't maybe enough to continue surprising teams, and there's only so much Maresca can change really from now until the end of the season. And again, that's just because of how we were set up from the start.
100%. I think I said this to you after, Charlie. It was like, if we would have played the same way that we played against Southampton, let's take the other two relegation teams out of the equation, although you could argue this for them as well. But any mid-table team in the Premier League, would we have won that game?
It's impossible to tell.
I mean, it's an open-ended question, isn't it? But
it depends.
What did you think? The question is basically, do you think that those performances are good enough to get us where we need to go and pick up consistent points?
Not with the fixtures we've got left, no. I mean, if we play like that, it's enough to beat Leicester. It's probably enough to beat Ipswich at home coming up as well. But if you're saying, if we play like that, is it enough to beat Newcastle away, beat Forest away, beat Arsenal away, get positive results away at Brentford and whatnot, then the answer is no. You know, we have to improve. The performances do have to get better. After the international break, players will start to come back. That will hopefully make a difference, maybe give us a bit of boost in confidence and a bit of a, push to finish the season strongly and try and get in them top 4, top 5 places for Champions League. But if we do play like that in the remainder of our games, we're not going to play a side that poor again. I mean, Leicester are crap, but they're not as bad as Southampton. There does need to be an improvement. But look, people that are saying, it was only Southampton, I've said it myself, but they weren't saying that when it was only Ipswich and we lost, and we're the only team to lose at Ipswich this whole season. That's the only home game they've won is against us. So, look, I'm not saying, let's big up this win against Southampton, everything's fine, but we needed that. It was
a must-win game.
It should be a confidence boost. We got 4 goals, 4 different goal scorers. We kept a clean sheet. I think that's our 4th clean sheet all season, first at home since Aston Villa in December. So, yes, it was a poor opposition, but those things do matter, and hopefully we can build on that and put in some better performances for the rest of the season.
No, definitely. There's when you look at it from a footballing standpoint, you have to almost try and take the positives from it. But I wasn't alone in thinking that. I'm sorry to be so dire, and yesterday I'd had 1 or 2 drinks, but I still feel the same way. I still feel the same way. I've woken up and I don't. My opinion's not changed. I thought it was poor. I really did. I thought it was poor. It wasn't entertaining. If you would have won any less than 4-0, I think it would have been embarrassing. Some people saying we should put in double digits past Southampton. Now, not to say that it should be anything like when we played Noah, because they're a better team than them, obviously. But I don't see it. I don't feel any form of a confidence boost actually after that game. I think it just papers over the cracks. I think it's a delay on what is the inevitable, which is that we're crumbling. And again, this is one of the reasons why a lot of rival fans don't understand why there was a protest yesterday. It's bigger than football. Unfortunately, it's slightly political, because we know that because of the situation that we are in financially as a club, with the debt and the money that we've spent, the money that we now can't spend because we don't have much more to spend, because obviously this isn't Egg Barley's money or Feliciano's money. It's Clear Lake Capital's investment fund. So they actually invested other people's money on top of the fact that they took out loans from the banks and another private equity firm, and they need to guarantee these guys returns. So I don't see how spending £100 million fits in with, for a top striker, whatever it is, even 50 million, whatever, and give them a nice wage, fits into the structure of how they make money, because they're in. We are balls deep into this project, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So for me, look, I hope we can get Champions League, because that gives the club more pull than it would have. But I do feel like we're going down a very slippery slope. And I also, some of the Man United fans I've heard from, and you've probably heard this as well, they say, you think you've got it bad, we've got the Glazers.
They have got it worse.
No, they don't.
They
don't.
No, listen.
The demise of Manchester United happened over 20 years. And they still picked up league titles with Sir Alex Ferguson. They won the Champions League. They beat us in the Champions League final. Everything from Chelsea has been stripped within 3 years. It's an absolute disgrace. It's worse. It's worse because the Glazers, they leverage debt, but they are invested as a pair, and then Jim Radcliffe is there as well. They are not a consortium.
No, but the Glazers own 75%. They're still calling the shots.
Private equity firm.
Sure, they're not. But
they are not a private equity firm.
Man United have to pay the Glazers £19 million every year.
And what does Todd Boehly take as a chairman every year?
For the privilege of being owned by the Glazers.
And what does Todd Boehly get paid every year as a chairman?
I've got absolutely no idea.
20 million.
I don't really care how much money he's paid. He's the only one that's put his own money into the football club, by the way, out of those.
And he has flexibility because it's his own money. And so does Mark. Well, that whole consortium has flexibility. What I'm saying is clearly they don't. So as much as they may want to change the model, they actually can't. They cannot change it. I had a finance expert or lawyer come up to me yesterday and, explain things in more detail. Very interesting because obviously I don't know everything contractually. When someone who actually knows what they're talking about puts it in plain English, it's quite refreshing to see it rather than reading all these long articles. And yeah, he said that they cannot change it. They cannot change it because you've got to remember that Boehly's obviously looking to make money out of this as well, but he can go down a different route and he doesn't have to sell within 10 years. What Clearlake have is essentially, how is it said to me? So you've got the American stock market, yeah? Now in America, generally, economy's good. Things go up in value, companies, blah, blah, blah. You look at Apple, you look at Meta, all this stuff. The stock always goes up. Tesla always goes up, generally speaking. It's not quite like that with us. And I think that they're struggling to adapt to the fact that not only they have a stock that's not going up in value, because it's not, you have an unhappy fan base.
But Chelsea would be worth, if they sold Chelsea now, it'd be worth more than they bought it for.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they bought it. They didn't buy it for the real value of the club.
No, but
so
it
I can
would
give
be.
you that.
I'm not saying they've massively added value, but if they sold it, if they sold it right now, they would absolute minimum get back what they paid for it. But they would probably.
What was that? Because I heard it was.
I think they paid £2.5 billion for it with a commitment to invest or spend £1 billion or 1.5. So it was kind of a $4 billion sort of total
but
package.
They expect the return to be a lot greater, right?
The return, I think the return will be greather over time.
Which is why they want to stick to it.
And they will stick to it. And this is the point where, you obviously people saying, they want the owners out, get these guys out. You can do that all you want. You could do it every week. They're not selling the football club. They're not going to sell. They're not selling it after 3 years. And always say, look at how long Man United have been protesting against the Glazers. Look at how long Arsenal have been protesting against the Cronkies. Look at how long Spurs have been trying to get ENIC and Levy out for. Ultimately, these billionaires, they don't care. They've got thick skins, and they just block that noise out. They will do what they want to do, and they will leave when they fancy leaving.
You know what they can't block out? Their shareholders. They can't block out their investors. And if their investors want to pull their money out for whatever reason, then they will do that, and that's the pressure, isn't it? And again, this Boehly, he hasn't got that problem.
Boehly's got minorities, but
but it's his own money.
Sure, it's his own money.
So he doesn't have to answer to anyone for that.
It's his own money, and he's a minority shareholder. He's got a very.
He was at the centre of the banners yesterday.
But it's only because his name was
Vivid Seats.
His name was attached to the consortium. Like if it had been, I don't know, someone else and Clearlake Capital, but because Boehly's name's attached to it, that's why he was kind of bearing the brunt of it. I'm not saying that he's blameless, by the way, but the fact that he's the face of it is why so much stuff has been directed at him. And I don't think enough Chelsea fans realise that this guy actually is barely involved in day-to-day running of the football club. Hasn't been for a long time.
I think it stretches back to the beginning when he made those mistakes.
He still has to sign off.
Hindered our growth.
He still has to sign off on decisions. They have to get everyone to sign off on it. But in terms of day-to-day running of the football club, in terms of him being involved in transfers, he's not been involved since January 23. He's not been involved for a good couple of years now. So look, obviously the Vivid Seats thing and other bits and pieces or whatever, yeah, fine, absolutely, do your thing or whatever. But a lot of it shouldn't really be directed at him. The brunt of it should be at Egbali, Feliciano, these guys, because those are the guys that are actually pulling the strings, and those are the guys that are driving the big decisions.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think the protest went very well. It was a peaceful protest. It was a clear message, and it just shows Chelsea fans care. That's the main thing, isn't it? I would have been embarrassed if nobody would have turned up, because it shows that we don't have a spine. So it's nice to see that people travelled from round and just show their support to the club, because, again, this isn't about the team. We obviously love the team. Right, let's talk football, shall we? Let's talk football. Let's start off with Jorgensen, who has been backed by Maresca recently, even though he's not actually played that well since he's come into the fold. But we've not exactly had a high bar with Sanchez out of the team. One of the big things I'm guessing you were both in MHL as well, right?
I was in the upper, but yeah.
Okay. Well, you would have heard the groans especially in the first half when we were passing the ball out.
I don't know why people are doing that. Like, they were doing it on the first game of the season as well against Man City. Like, this is how we're going to play. Like, it's not changing. So
it's not about that. It's not about the actual way we want to play, though.
No, it is,
Charlie.
though. No,
it's how we're doing it.
Yeah, but
it was such a struggle to play out the back in the first 20 minutes.
Sure, but they're not going to change it. That's the point.
That's fine, but it's got to work better if we're going to play the teams that are coming up.
Fine. It's got to work better. But this idea that, like, a team that's struggling, a young team that's low on confidence, that needs support, they're being told to play in a certain way. Fans getting on their back and jeering about it is pathetic. Like, what are you doing? Get behind the team or go and support someone else. Like, it's ridiculous.
I see both sides of it.
No, I think it's unacceptable. Like, this is
for the fans to complain
at that early. If we were losing or whatever, fine. It's 0-0. We're about 15 minutes in. All right, it's not been the best start. We're 2 wins in 10. You're low on confidence, and it's a young team that has been struggling. Don't start jeering when they're playing how they're being told to play. That's not helping anyone. I think it's ridiculous, and it's really poor from those fans that were doing it.
I think it's an expression of frustration more than anything. I don't believe in booing players, and I never have booed a player, never will. I don't believe in that. But you can express frustration when what you're seeing on the pitch is visibly awful. There's no other way to put it. The first 15, 20 minutes when we were trying to play out the back, Jorgensen was literally looking left and right. It's like there was nobody to distribute the ball to, and it was inviting pressure. And again, any other team, they probably force some errors in those situations. So that's not good enough. And of course, you're going to be frustrated when we were misplacing passes and we couldn't get it through into Enzo or Caicedo at all, let alone try and string an attack in those first kind of early exchanges. So of course there's going to be frustration about that, and I think especially given the context with obviously the protest beforehand, that certainly fired up fans a little bit more. Yeah, okay, I kind of get your point, but also when you're watching that in the stands and you just want a little bit better. And again, I think now we're at a point where we're putting things into context a lot more. It's much bigger than just the Southampton game. I'm looking ahead and I'm thinking, yes, it was a positive result. Yes, okay, it was a good performance. The players needed that kind of celebration of the goals. You can tell that they were almost desperate to just put a goal away, go out and celebrate it. But this is much bigger than that, because again, like you say, it is a little bit of paper over the cracks. We were expecting to beat Southampton, right? I mean, come on. I'm not going to forget one of our lowest lows when we lost home and away before they went down in the Graham Potter season. And we're talking about improvements. And again, we're talking about improvements. We beat them 5-1 last year and we were singing Enzo Maresca's name, and then here we are, flash forwards a few months later, how different it is. So this is much, much bigger. It's the fact that Chelsea are frail and unstable. There's a lack of consistency, and you look at the teams that we played in our good run of form, we barely picked up points in those games. And we're going to play Forest, we're going to play Arsenal, we lost to Liverpool. Those are games. Even Newcastle at home could have gone either way. So I'm looking at those games and I'm thinking, well, we didn't beat them or take maximum points at our best. It is perfectly normal to go into these fixtures worrying about it. So that's where the frustration and the worry comes from, right? Because you see that against Southampton and you think we've got to pull our stuff together going into these games, because they will not let us make errors like that. I
mean, a lot of the frustration was obviously the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Because there was moments where you think just chip it up, and he did try it once or try it twice. Neto made a few runs. It
went
work.
out of play.
Yes. But he did try, and I saw Maresca's reaction to it, not happy at all. And he said after, if Jorgensen wants to play long, then I'm going to take him out.
He said that earlier in the season about Sanchez as well. Like, this is the point, right? Fans can be frustrated or whatever. It's not changing. So you moaning about it is not going to do anything, and it's just going to create a poor atmosphere for these players to play in. And that's the last thing that we need right now when we're low on confidence and we're struggling. Like, I could understand it a bit more if you're losing, if there's not much time left in the game or whatever. We're like 10, 15 minutes into the match.
Yeah, but we're playing like we're 4-0 up, trying to keep the result, playing it amongst ourselves at the back.
I just cannot get on board with anyone that thinks that's all right. Like,
it's not that they're booing the players.
No, they're not booing it, but they're venting frustration.
But how? Of course
it's the
they're
same
going
way as celebrating and cheering.
We're not losing though. Like, this is my point. Like, get behind the team, support the team. We're going through a difficult moment right now.
We still were though, Charlie. Like, there was still chants. We were still singing for Chelsea.
But like, I just don't think that's acceptable in my opinion. Like, in no circumstances that for me was not acceptable. If people disagree, that's fine. But for me, that's not right.
So what would you say to the fans that were venting? So you think it's unacceptable? What should they do?
Should be supporting the team. Like, I get it. It's frustrating being a fan. We've all been to games where it's like, oh, what are you doing? Blah. Like, obviously, maybe not in that, maybe a bit more colourful language than that. But do you know what I mean? Like, if you've got to support the team and get behind the team. I get it. It's frustrating. You've got your right to express frustration as a fan. But for me, I wouldn't have an issue with it if we were losing, if it was late in the game and we're wasting time with it at the back and whatnot. Like, that's a different scenario to being early doors in the game. We're low on confidence. We need to create a good atmosphere to play. And Stamford Bridge atmosphere is not very good at the best of times. We're struggling. I just don't see how doing that is conducive to helping the players on the pitch whatsoever, because it's not.
I mean, they did go on to score 4 goals after that. But no, I hear you, Charlie. But I think there was the right balance of us seeing our chances, we always do in Matthew Lower, and also expressing frustration when we just couldn't get the ball out the back at all. And that's normal. But again, yeah, okay, we are behind the team. We're supporting the team. We're still going to the games. And to those fans who said, oh, you're contradicting yourselves by going into the game after, I don't think so, because I think we all said if we don't go, the next Chelsea fan will. So it's just like, we'd rather still support the team, because at the end of the day, the season's not over. We still have targets to meet. We still have top 4 to finish in. So there's no point of just giving up on the team now and saying, yeah, that's it, done mid-season, because otherwise, well, what we're stuck for next season, So
you haven't given up?
Well, no, because of the hope.
No, I've not
the
given up.
hopelessly positive fan I am.
I haven't given up, but I'm realistic.
Dull.
I'm realistic and
You don't think we're going to finish in the top 4?
No, I don't think we're going to finish in the Champions League places, because of the way that we're playing, because of the fixtures that we've got left. And I'd love to be wrong on that, but I just haven't seen enough over the last couple of months to think that we're suddenly going to come back to some sort of form that's going to get us to pick results up in big football matches. Like, I just can't see that personally. Yeah. Look, there could be a situation where we pull a few results out the bag, a few results go in our favour, and we somehow do it. And I'd absolutely love that. I want to be in a Champions League more than anyone. Of course I do. But I've got to be realistic about it. And with the quality that we've got at the moment, with the players missing, with the way that we're playing, other teams are better equipped to do it. Whether it's a Newcastle, whether it's a Man City, they just are.
Bournemouth?
Well, they lost last night, which was a help, but you can't count Bournemouth out.
It's bad when you try to get Bournemouth to drop points.
I don't believe we will, but I've not completely given up hope and whatever, season's done now. Like, there's still a chance, but I just don't believe we've got what it takes to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I respect any optimism out there. I don't have it. We're just riding on the Conference League, aren't we? And the one positive that I can say, and this is what I said last season, and I will stick to that, is as long as you see a progression year on year, then the argument is you improved. That's all you want. I would argue that we've improved in some aspects, but there's other aspects that I think we are regressing, and you'll see that towards the end of the season. The cup competitions is a clear regression because of how we perform in the domestic competitions.
We were at Wembley last year.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah,
last year?
It was.
Wow.
Cup final against Liverpool.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was great fun.
And then we went from 12th to 6th, and then if we went from 6th to 4th, I would be very happy with that progression. I didn't expect us to finish up there. I think I predicted 5th. Or
Which is still better.
If we get Champions League, it's progress.
Oh,
Simple as
mate.
that. So that's the reality.
That was the target coming into the
whether it's
season.
4th or 5th is irrelevant. I don't care if it's 5th place and you get Champions League. Just get me back in the Champions League. Like that's what we're looking for at the end of the day. Yeah, great. You'd like to finish 4th, but ultimately 4th or 5th. Who cares? If you get Champions League, you get Champions League.
I'll take what I can get.
It's really irrelevant, So that we should win the Conference League, and then if you can somehow get a top 5 place as well, that would be progression, and that would have to go down as a good season compared to last season.
From a Premier League perspective, I think if Maresca is able to get us in a position where we're in Champions League, he deserves a lot of credit.
Well, a trophy in Champions League football is a considerable improvement on last year.
It's
Really?
Conference League, mate.
But still, we're not in the cups
it's
or
irrelevant
anything.
though. Like a trophy.
That's not true. That's not true. Getting to a Carabao Cup final is harder than winning the Conference League.
Yeah, but I'd rather have a trophy than lose a final.
No, but you're saying it's a progression.
It is a
But
progression.
it is a progression if you've got a trophy.
It's
to
a
show
progression.
for it.
Yes,
It's a
if you
progression
look
if
at the
you've got a
cabinet, it's
trophy.
fine. But if you look at it as a season as a whole, that's like saying, for example, let's look at when we won the Champions League in 2012, but we did terribly domestically. I think we finished 5th or something like that.
We won an FA Cup as well that year.
Yeah, but if you look at it from that standpoint, and then you look at a season where you're more consistent, maybe don't win as many trophies. There's different ways of looking at it, I suppose. You are right. Listen, I'm happy if we can win a trophy, but I'm not going to sit here and say that winning a Conference League is the be all and end all. The nice thing about it is then we can say we literally have won it all,
And it does
which
also
is cool.
and it does also get you a Europa League place, which
Yes.
might not be a guarantee in the league. You never know. So that's why that's doubly important as
Oh,
well.
definitely. I mean, I don't think that. I don't think we get a Europa League spot in the Premier League.
You'd have to finish 6th or 7th to get one of them.
7th is a possibility.
Alex, where do you think we'll finish?
8th, maybe 7th.
I'm not sure that low.
Well, let's go through it because I've asked you this as well, and I've gone through my predictions as well.
I mean, there would be a greater deal of optimism, wouldn't there, if we'd signed some players in January?
We've got like how many points? 40 odd, 42, 43. Something
I think
like
it must
that.
be a bit more than that now.
No, it's
Table,
more.
we're on 46 points.
46
okay.
points now.
How many did we have last season? 62? Around that
I
mark?
can't remember.
I struggle to see us finishing on many more than 62. So Premier League, this is my predictions. I predict a draw against Leicester. I predict
against Leicester?
Yes,
Oh,
I predict a draw
mate.
against Leicester. I predict a loss against Arsenal. I think we beat Tottenham at home. I think we lose to Brentford. I think we beat Ipswich. I think we lose to Fulham. I think we
Is that Fulham away?
Fulham away. Yeah, we lose to Fulham. We beat Everton. We lose to Liverpool. We lose to Newcastle. Probably draw against United at home, and then I'm going to say a loss against Forest as well. That's the gone honest truth. And if you look at the teams that we're playing, you can't. It's hard to argue. Like, this is why I asked, do you think we can get the results the way we played yesterday? Because I don't think we beat Leicester playing like that. I really don't.
We'll beat Leicester.
It will be enough to beat
Leicester-
Leicester.
I'd be shocked if we didn't beat Leicester. Leicester are diabolical. We have to be real. They're terrible. I mean, they're not as bad as Southampton, but they are shocking.
We're shocking.
Yeah, mate, we're not as bad as Leicester.
No, we're not as bad as Leicester. But the problem is that, the difference between us and Leicester? I'll tell you one thing that's different between us and Leicester is Leicester will do whatever they have to do to get anything out of that game. We will not change our principles in terms of the way we play, irrespective of the result. And that is going to be the death
Mate, we will beat Leicester.
of any form of Champions League hopes this season, is our manager essentially giving up on results because he doesn't want to give up a certain style of play. Look, he's certainly adapted things. I'm not going to sit here and say he hasn't. I quite like Neto up front against
It's
Villa.
good. It's working well. It worked well last night as well.
There's some good aspects to it, but there is not enough within this team in terms of what he has to work with, and he doesn't offer enough either to tell me that we're going to be able to overturn any form of deficit, because we will drop points, and there'll be other teams that drop points as well, but I just struggle to see Newcastle dropping more points than us, or Bournemouth dropping more, or Aston Villa dropping more. Bear in mind how they improved in January as well.
They got battered last night 4-1 by Palace.
Yeah, but we only drew against Palace. Let's not act
They
like...
didn't ship 4. But what I'm saying is though, like, we will drop points, but this is the point that everyone's so inconsistent. So you might not actually have to win that many games to get in the top 5 because everyone else is dropping points. I'm not saying I'll win a couple more games and you get it, but you look at 12 games left. If you got, I reckon you could win less than half of those games and you'd finish in the top 5, given how inconsistent everyone else has been and given that teams in and around us are playing against each other as well. You've got Newcastle against Liverpool tonight. You've got Man City, Tottenham. I know obviously Tottenham aren't in the mix there, but you've got those teams in and around each other have got difficult games and are facing one another as well. So you could be in a situation where normally you'd say you might need to win 6, 7 or maybe even 8 of those last 12 games, 12, 13 games to get in the top 4, top 5. I think it potentially could be less. You could be looking at winning 4, maybe 5 of those games out of 12 and you could get in given the inconsistencies.
Well, if that's the case, fair play.
However, you look at Aston Villa, yes, they lost 4-1, but they made reinforcements in January, right? And that's enough to arm them or at least level them up a little bit. We're not leveled up. We're working still with whatever we had last year and maybe even less because of a few injuries, how you can maybe upgrade. Reece James coming back in, he was rested. That was a good decision. Wesley Fofana coming back from an injury. Jackson for some depth as well. So that's how we level up. That's the only way we level up. So, yes, to an extent, Maresca, there is an expectation for him to do a little bit better, but how much better can he do when adapting, when it comes to playing and setting up against these top teams who, let's be real, probably fancy playing us at the moment. I think Chelsea are a team that a lot of teams might want to play right now because, again, we are quite predictable and it doesn't really take a lot. Again, I think we bought ourselves a bit of time playing against Southampton. It did take a little bit of a while to score. We were really trying to get it up there, and then obviously minute 25, was it 25th minute, and Nkunku scored. But again, it's difficult. We have seen us drop points from winning positions a lot, so it's like, do you want to go 1-0 up? Do you want to be behind? It seems that it doesn't really make a difference these days. But I think, again, you're looking at those teams that we're competing with, well, they have still made reinforcements mid-season and we didn't. If anything, we regressed a little bit with players we sent out on loan who at least added a little bit of depth to the bench. Like, you look at it, I love Tyreek George. He's such a bright player. He looks like he changes things up, but I think it's a little bit sad on the player that he comes on maybe in the next few games with the pressure on his shoulders of having to save Chelsea or salvage a point against these teams.
Rather have him than Felix. Come on, he's done more than Felix did.
Well, no, sure, but again, I'm just saying, we've spent the amount of money, but once again, we're adding pressure on these younger players that are just coming through the ranks.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. And again, he's a very welcome option to have. He's bright. He wants to get involved. His movement was brilliant yesterday. Got the assist in a really clever cutback and could have got a goal himself with the shot he took. And again, you're going to get that with players like that because again, they get minutes barely never. So of course they're going to come on and fancy their chances, try and take some risks and be a little bit keen to just impress the gaffer. But the truth is, we don't actually have that many game changers. We don't really have game changers on the bench like maybe other teams have. You want to say game changer? Well, Marcus Rashford came on and, assisted too for Asensio against us. So it's just that player that can come on and bring something a little bit different. Because right now we're really thin on the ground. So you kind of just trust your starting 11 to do a job. And that might be quite difficult if we're, giving the players as many minutes as they are, playing the full 90s, game in, game out, and with the pressure on their shoulders of what they have to achieve to the rest of the season, it could be difficult mentally and physically.
100%. I think, if we can just keep a run of defensive form, that would be enough, I think, to get us through.
Can we do that, though? That was our first clean sheet since Everton away in the league.
I mean, can we do it? Probably not. But
no,
for me, if we have a solid defensive foundation, and we can just pick up some 1-0s, I would love
this team's not this team's not ready to win games 1-0.
No,
it absolutely isn't. Like, I'll be real, mate. I don't feel confident we're going to win a game until we've got like 3 goals, because we're prone to letting goals in and we're prone to making stupid mistakes. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, I think obviously players will start coming back after the international break. We've got 4 games left between now and that break. The 2 ties against Copenhagen and obviously Leicester and Arsenal. Let's continue with the setup we've got for those 4 games. Mate, I really like Neto down the middle. He's probably had 2 of his best games for Chelsea in these last 2 games. I thought against Villa he was good. He grabbed an assist, and then obviously last night he took his goal really well. He got an assist as well. I think he whipped in the free kick that Colwell headed home.
What did you think about the celebration from Colwell, by the way? Because a lot of people criticised that.
I didn't like it.
Look, I understand it, because like there's been criticism of him, but where I'm a little bit out with it is like, mate, it's the third goal against probably the worst team in Premier League history, arguably are on course to go down as that. That's not the time to do it. If you scored the winner against Arsenal at the Emirates and it's like last minute or whatever, and you give it that one, absolutely fair play. But if you're doing that against Southampton at home, I understand like the criticism, you'd be aware of it. He's not had the best season. You want to let people know. You probably don't do it against Southampton at home. But look, it's good to see him score a goal. It's nice to see him, have a better game. But yeah, mate, as I say, Neto down the middle is good. I like it. And that's a temporary solution for these next 4 games. He's looked good. He gets his runs in behind. He offers a threat in behind, which we've lacked. And you can get the ball to him. He's got a good finish on him as well. I think he got a goal and assist for the first time ever in the same Premier League game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like ever?
Yeah, which is kind of mad. Yeah, I think
Not
so.
even at Wolves.
No, I don't think he did. So that's
Fair.
So that's a positive for him, and he's had a bit of a mixed season, and it's nice to see him coming into some good form because he's a top player.
He's been in and out of the team, hasn't he?
Yeah, but that run down, that sort of him down the middle, I think obviously until Jackson comes back after the international break, we have to stick with that because I think it is actually working quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has been pretty good. Maybe the hold-up play could be a little bit better, but he's not a natural striker.
No, it's pretty tough to watch a winger to hold the ball up.
Did you see who he was holding up the ball against as well? I can't remember who it was.
Oh, it was
at the
a
back.
big, tall Nigerian guy.
Yes,
It's like the
he was
Nigerian
so
Peter Crouch,
tall.
isn't it? He's
Are you
6
talking
foot.
about the...
I can't pronounce his
Are you
name.
talking about their striker, Southampton striker?
Yeah, the Nigerian
big.
Crouch, mate. Yeah,
He's big.
I think he's Nigerian.
He's quite techie as well,
He's got a little bit, mate. He's got a little bit, yeah.
I've seen, I think, which game was it? Was it the United game? Southampton? Or maybe it was Liverpool.
Mate, Southampton played United off the park at Old Trafford for like 80 odd minutes, yeah.
No, it was a Liverpool game where
I think he scored
where they had the penalty.
Yeah.
And he was unreal.
I think his name begins with O.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this
right. Give us the pronunciation. Let's hear it.
Take a deep breath. Paul Onuchu.
Onuchu?
No, that's not too bad.
Well, that was not as difficult as I thought. Onuchu. There we go, yeah.
I was expecting something a little bit more...
A bit more complicated, yeah. that was pretty straightforward, yeah. Fair.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, well, there we go. Onuchu, yeah.
I don't think like African names are even that difficult though.
No,
I
not
think
really.
sometimes the pronunciation's different from how it looks on, like, how it's written out, so that could be wrong still.
Like, I can't think of an African name that... Like a footballer with an African name that I'm like, oh, that's a...
Not too
Not off the
difficult.
top. I mean, Drogba, Kalu, Essien.
Yeah.
Eto. It's pretty simple
Mahrez,
stuff.
I love how we're just
Lookman.
naming our own players.
It's not too difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What about Gusto? What do we think about him?
Better game. He had a better game. I think, do you know what it is, right? Gusto obviously hasn't been anywhere near as good as he was last season, but I've been guilty of it myself as well. Fans need to be a little bit less harsh on players. The kid's 21. Like, he's obviously going to go through ups and downs. Some players won't hit their peak until like 25, 26. It's quite normal for a 21-year-old to probably go through a dip in form. He was exceptional last season, probably in our top 3 best performers. There's naturally going to be a bit of a dip, The inverting thing doesn't really suit him, Cucurella inverts, that suits him. Gusto goes into as a third centre-back in the back 3. Doesn't really suit him that well. You want him bombing on, you want him overlapping. I think he got 7 assists in the league last season. Obviously he hasn't got anywhere near that amount this season. But I think people are too harsh on players. I'll use like Ousmane Dembele as an example. I know it's a different position, but Dembele's 27 now, and he's finally at PSG hitting some really good consistent form and showing how good a player he is. He come through at Rennes and then went to Borussia Dortmund when he was young, went to Barcelona for over 100 million euros. Didn't really have a very good time there. Players develop at different rates. These kids are so young. So he's not doing that well this season at 21, but it doesn't mean that he's bad. It doesn't mean...
I don't put it down to him at all. I put it down to the manager.
Look, the player playing has got to take a bit of responsibility himself, but I do believe that he is a victim of the system. The system definitely doesn't suit him as much as it did last season. Now, don't get me wrong, he's had good games in this system, but overall he looked much more effective in the system under Poch because it played to his strengths more than this one does. So he's had good games in this season, by the way, in this system, but yeah, it definitely is probably a way that he's never played before. and it's going to take him time to get used to that. Plus, he's still a young kid. I thought he was good last night, but again, you don't want to sort of go over the top on praise when you're playing a terrible team, but you can only play what's in front of you, and he played well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Gusto. I think he's quality. I don't see how... If Maresca stays at Chelsea for years to come, I don't see Gusto being a part of that plan, to be honest with you, because I just don't think that he fits what Maresca wants, and I don't think that Maresca is able to give Gusto what he wants either, which is the ability to do what he did last season. Although he made a couple of overlapping runs, which I prefer to see some rather than none, so he's not inverting all the time. We saw Dewsbury Hall come on as well towards the end of the game. He's getting some minutes. Do you think he's going to be sold in the summer?
Whether he's sold or whether he goes out on loan, I'd be very surprised if he was here next season. I just don't really see.
How much is he on? What's his wage?
Won't be
over 100k.
Nah.
No, I'd be very surprised.
Do you know how much Gusto's on?
How much?
Like 50 or something.
45 a week.
Yeah, but it's
in that sense, you probably would still keep him around, wouldn't you?
It's incremental increases as well. But yeah, look, I'd be very surprised if Dewsbury Hall was there. It was nice to see the young kid Shin Moheka come on for his Premier League debut. He almost scored with his first touch from a header, but yeah, look, whether we'll see a bit more of him going forwards, maybe in the Conference League, maybe against Leicester at home, I don't know, but it was nice to see him come on. Nice to see Acheampong get some minutes as well. First time he's played since that draw against Bournemouth. I find the whole situation surrounding him a little bit strange. He signs a new contract. He starts against Palace, does really well, plays against Bournemouth, gets taken off, thought a bit harshly, to be honest. Didn't think he had a particularly bad game. And then we literally hadn't seen him for well over a month, and then he comes on in this game. So I'm a bit confused about the situation and the scenario surrounding him. But it was nice to see him get some minutes as well.
Definitely, and Nkunku got a goal yesterday as well. He's playing as a winger, which you can get away with against Southampton. I just don't see how you can get away with it in the other game.
But they're probably similar to a Conference League level side, aren't they? So that's really why probably even Nkunku was looking good. But look, it was nice to see him get a goal. It was nice to see him.
And he got the balloon out.
Yeah, I heard. Coming for Southampton. If there are any Southampton fans.
But it was nice. It was nice to see him get a goal, which would be good for his confidence. Nice to see him have an improved performance. Of course, we're not going to say, Nkunku's back because he's done that against Southampton, but that'll be a boost for his confidence regardless of the opposition. And look, we're pretty certain he's not going to be here next season, but we need to find a way to get something out of him for the remainder of the season, because he's going to be an important player between now and the end. So you can find a way to get something out of him, and you can find a way to get him producing, then that is going to be of benefit to us. So I hope maybe this kind of role on the right left hand side, wherever he's playing, and maybe more of an inside forward kind of thing, can maybe unlock him and get a bit more out of him, because that would help us.
100%. I heard that he wasn't going to get the balloons out for any more.
I don't even think he carried the balloons anymore.
He doesn't carry the balloons.
No, he did it last night.
That's what I mean, though.
No, I know. I was glad to see it, but I just thought, it's been so long. Does he still have his balloons?
Well, I thought because he wanted to leave. I mean, look, PR and nobody actually knows what's going on. But I thought that he was.
Chelsea would have sold him. Chelsea wanted to sell him, but it was a ridiculous asking price for him.
Like 65, 60 million.
We were never going to get that.
He'll go in the summer.
Yeah.
Who else? Oh, actually, just before we'll sort of move on to Palmer.
Enzo Fernandez was outstanding.
I've been really happy with our midfield, man. Like, there's not really a lot to say except to give them credit, because even when we've looked poor as a whole, and I do blame part of that to the system, because you've got enough players that are playing well to still be able to sort of salvage some of the results. And the midfield is a big part of that. If there's one thing that we've certainly improved on this season compared to last season, it's our ability to dominate the midfield and win those battles.
There's no massive gaps between Enzo and Kaito like there was last season.
Yes, no, that's absolutely right, mate.
So that's definitely improved in that aspect. Look, it can absolutely be better. Can those two play better together as a pairing? Absolutely. But there's been significant improvements from those two playing together compared to what there was last season. And once we can get Lavia back fit again, and hopefully keep him fit for a sustained period of time going into next season,
we wish
that's a really, really strong midfield trio, plus Andre Santos back in the mix as well. That's a really good crop of midfield players that is arguably as good as any in the league potentially.
When they're fit, absolutely. Yeah. You'd probably argue they are the best.
But I won't believe Andre Santos is going to stay at Chelsea until I see him in the shirt and the window's closed.
You think we're going to sell him?
Mate, you know what these guys are like. Nothing can be ruled out.
Oh, God. I thought maybe talking about football would put me in a better mood. Palmer, he had loads of chances yesterday. I'm surprised he didn't score. I mean, a lot of people say don't worry too much about Palmer. Keep your Palmer stocks because
Palmer told us that as well. He said, "Don't worry, I'll be back."
Yeah,
didn't he?
He's in a difficult moment right now, but look, I'm glad that we're able to win. We were able to win a game where we didn't need him to contribute like that because with all the money invested, we're still so reliant on him, which is not a good thing. You know, obviously every team's going to have players that are going to contribute more and they're going to be more reliant on than others, but it's not healthy to be so reliant on one player. He's going through a difficult run right now. All players go through difficult patches of form. But what I would say is, yes, he missed a couple of very, very good chances. I don't mind players missing chances. What I do mind is the players aren't getting in the position to miss the chances. So at least he's getting in those positions. At least he's getting the opportunities. Yes, he's missing them, but look, that'll come back. He'll start scoring again. He's going for a bit of a blip at the moment, but nothing to worry about. The guy's a top quality operator, and if anyone's allowed a little bit of an off patch for Chelsea, then it's him because he's carried the club for the last 18 months.
No, definitely, completely agree with that. He's getting himself in good positions. Could have easily scored probably 4 goals yesterday.
Could have had a hat trick.
But he didn't get it for a lack of trying or even attempting to take the shot, which we criticised maybe Jackson for. He has a crack, and maybe it doesn't come off, but law of averages will state based on his time at Chelsea, he'll be getting in the goals very shortly, I'm sure. But I feel good about Palmer. I think I do think that we need to move him just on Nkunku. Put Nkunku in the middle and put Palmer on the right. I don't what's so difficult about that. And people talk about the fact that balance. Palmer actually tracks back and presses and does all of this stuff.
He'll do that. He'll track back more than Nkunku will.
No, he does it very well, mate. I'm extremely impressed. Most of the time when I watch Palmer, his energy and his work rate off the ball is really impressive. When you look at some of these other players and you compare the maestros, let's call them that, your Ozils, your Odegaards, maybe less so Odegaard, but players like that, and they don't necessarily have that same commitment off the ball. They will press, but do they give that extra 110%? And I do feel like Palmer. One thing I got to give him credit for, I think he's got a fantastic work rate, and I think that because he's so versatile, you can get away with it defensively as well.
It's not about him though. I think it's more a danger with playing Nkunku there because I don't trust him as much.
No, that's what I mean though. So you move Nkunku into the middle in the 10.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying you wouldn't do that?
I don't trust him to keep possession like Palmer would in those instances. And I think that's it leaves Enzo and Caicedo a lot more vulnerable as well, in my opinion, because I think that's where we get overturned. And I think Palmer's really good at just trying to, the ball's glued at his feet when he's got it there, and he can really easily lay it off, link up with players that are moving around him. I don't trust Nkunku to do that. And actually what I saw against Aston Villa made me believe that even more. I think he's a lot less technically gifted on the ball than Palmer. I mean, that's obvious as well. But when it comes to kind of keeping possession, he was tackled very many times against Aston Villa, and that's why I thought maybe he might be dropped for Southampton purely because of that. But yeah, he was dispossessed way too easily, and that's the danger you get if you play him there instead of Palmer, in my opinion, especially against top teams.
It's a good point. It is a good point. I will give you that. I don't know. I'm just thinking to myself, how can you get the most out of the players you have? We've seen Palmer perform on the right, and we know Nkunku is better as a 10 than as a winger. And if you can have a player that's in his position, I just think you'll get more out of him. Now you are right; probably would concede possession a lot more. He would, facts. But he's also going to be able to make those runs into the box. Those are the places you want Nkunku, and I actually think Nkunku's a better finisher than Palmer. I think he's the best finisher in the team. Nobody can. No,
really?
100%. His record of finishing is fantastic. Nkunku's a great finisher. He just can't.
Better than Palmer.
Yeah, definitely. Palmer's got to do it over.
On what are you basing that judgment?
Well, he's been scoring goals for years. He's been doing it for a long time. This is Palmer's second season. He's been very creative this year. He scored goals as well, but no, I think. As a footballer, Palmer is much better, but as a finisher, just one aspect, I would say Nkunku's the best in the team, 100%. Nkunku doesn't offer you anything else though, and that's where people get angry. If you feed Nkunku like he was fed in the Conference League, he scores goals for fun.
But he's very good in the box.
He's fantastic, mate, when he
He's
finishes,
good.
but he
No, I
doesn't
agree,
offer
he's good at
enough
finishing.
on top of that. He doesn't have great link-up play. He's not fast. He doesn't help his teammates. He doesn't make his teammates better. He's crap defensively, and he doesn't show any leadership qualities. So you've got a lot of bad things that you could say about Nkunku, but his finishing is top-notch. You can't question his finishing ability.
Yeah, but I also think if you do look at the conversion rate, and yeah, okay, I guess where Maresca played him further up top, it was, quite ineffective. But even still, some of the chances he missed, Palmer, I'd back to score those. So on those premises, I think I disagree with that.
But they're the two best finishers at the club.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
definitely.
we could say that.
If you were to give Palmer an array of chances, he's bound to score a lot of them. But what my point of putting Nkunku in the 10 is that he can then make those runs into the box, and I know Netta's a striker, but let's just imagine he's on the wing, and you put those balls into the box and you feed someone who's in there. Palmer's not the player that you feed. He creates and he links up. He doesn't wait for something to happen. He makes something happen. Mm-hmm. If you give Nkunku something to work with, he's a player that can then do something with it. But he can't take the game by the scruff of the neck. He's never done that. Even under Poch, when he did come on and he scored goals in the limited minutes that he had, he didn't do fuck all in the games, but he managed to get some goals, and that's why he's a good player. He's a player that ultimately will score goals, but he doesn't offer much else. He's basically
He can score penalties as well.
I'm trying to think. Like that classic striker that you have, and probably going back 10, 15 years. And they don't really offer much, but they get in the right position.
It's a little bit.
But he's not like that, is he?
Well, Nkunku gets some positions.
Well,
definitely, but he doesn't make runs. But I'm talking about
just
a
like a
player
target man, or not even.
It's not a target.
He's
man.
not
Well,
a target
that's
man.
why
It's
I
probably
don't
a
get
shit
your
analogy.
point.
Ignore what I said.
Yeah.
But
okay.
the point is that Nkunku doesn't offer much, but he's a great finisher. So if you put him in a position where he can finish and that's it, then I think you'll get more out of him.
Fairs.
Because we need goals. So, and if Palmer's not firing, then someone else has got to do it. You've still got a player in Palmer who can cut inside. We've seen it, and he can whip balls in and be creative as well. And if he's on the right hand side, it's harder to man mark him as well. You can only have one player on instead of two, otherwise you're dragging people out of position. Maybe you have your winger tracking back as well, but and then if you have Gusto overlapping, then you've got a real problem because they work really well together. So yeah, that's my only thoughts on that, but I don't think it will happen. I just don't understand why we don't try it more. Why not experiment a little bit? You've done something with Neto. It's clearly working. I think that you have a better solution than having Nkunku up there. I do agree with you on that.
Miles better.
So see if you can get a little bit more out of Nkunku in another way as well, because he offers nothing on the wing, absolutely nothing.
No, I think that's fair.
And he's not in a position to score on the wing. So the only thing he's good at doing, you're not even putting in a position to do what he's good at. Yeah, I mean, is there any players we haven't spoken about? Anything?
No, not
Sancho.
Not really.
Oh yeah.
What do you guys make of Sancho? Sancho's been
he was okay. There's a few little nice bits here and there.
We need some goals from Sancho.
Sure, but we need more goals from everyone.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, that was Neto's third goal of the season in the league.
Yeah,
Sancho's got 2. I mean, look. We need more output from everyone. Sancho's performances have definitely dipped in recent weeks. There's no denying that. We haven't got the Sancho that we were seeing sort of at the start of his Chelsea career. Haven't got the Sancho, when he scored in back-to-back games against Southampton and Tottenham. But yeah, we need more from him. He has been disappointing in recent weeks. I thought there were a few nice bits from him last night. Nothing amazing, nothing to shout home about.
No.
But he, like everyone else, has got to up their levels. We need more output from everyone across the front line. I don't want to just single out Sancho individually because it's not just him. But yeah, look, his performances have dropped off, and we need him to get back to that level again. And look, this was okay last night. It wasn't amazing, but it was a bit better than what we've seen from him in previous weeks.
Sancho's more of like a playmaking winger than like a goal-scoring winger. At least right now, that's
like
kind of
Neto.
what he appears to be. Yeah, true.
We haven't got any goal-scoring wingers. Madueke's probably
No.
the only winger that's actually got goal-scoring threat. I mean, he's got 7 league goals this season. That's our third highest scorer in the league.
Yeah. And maybe we could have justified not having a striker if they wanted to sign wingers that would supposedly add and contribute with more goals, but they don't. And that's the thing, like we've seen, there's a lot of dilly-dallying with the ball, especially on the wings, and what happens is, you know, they get marked out of the game, they get doubled up on,
Yeah,
and
but
they
there's
just
no one
have
in the
to
box.
return
There's no one.
in
But there's no one in the box either. That's
No,
why half the
I
time
agree, but
the
still-
possession gets recycled from those wide
it's
positions.
too
'cause
slow
you,
at
'cause
times.
yeah, sure, but it doesn't help when there's no one in the box. You get the ball out wide. You look up, there's no one in the box,
True.
and then you have to recycle the possession back.
Yeah, Neto could have genuinely had so many assists as well this season. Maybe Sancho arguably could have had more as well.
But we put a lot of crosses into the box, and again,
No
it goes
one's
back to
there.
recruitment. There's no striker that's got a box presence.
It goes like, what was the stat about Palmer? Probably
It's created loads of chances.
was it
and,
33 chances with
33,
no
34,
goals
no
in the end, or was
assists,
it
yeah.
big chances? Or
Big
Uh,
chances.
well, but no assists in his last 13, 14 games or whatever. But it's not because he's not creating opportunities, because he's been let down by his teammates.
Yeah, listen. Even if you're a good player, you've got to have good players around you.
You're only as good as who you're playing with at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you can still thrive, but it's hard to reach
Yeah.
that ceiling. Absolutely. What did we make of the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge? It's been something that's obviously been discussed.
I'll
It
be
goes
honest,
back
mate, it's
to
poor. It's crap. We have to be straight up. And look, we're match-going fans. We are part of that. You know, I'd say that we're some of the more vocal ones. Certainly, where I was sitting in the Matthew Harding upper, I was in the back row, so luckily I could stand up. But everyone sat down, people having a chat. They're not really. They're almost there. It almost feels like a lot of people are there to have a chat, and the football's like on in the background. Like the atmosphere's not good. We have to be real. Away games, it's pretty good. You know,
it's been quite poor this year at away games
some of them,
as well.
some of the more recent ones haven't been as good, but generally speaking, the away support is significantly better.
Of course.
Look, Stamford Bridge in some games the atmosphere has been okay this season, but look, I think it's an issue across the board at Premier League grounds where atmosphere for home teams is a problem. And there were a lot of empty seats last night, certainly from what I could see in the upper. I don't know what it was like in the lower, but there were quite a few empty seats in the upper. And yeah, look, I'm not going to tell people how to support their team. They pay their money. You do what you've paid for that seat. You support the team in whatever way you want to support the team. But it is true. There's not enough people are vocally supportive in the stadium, and the atmosphere is not good. And we have to be honest about it. It's not great.
Do you think there's anything we can do to solve that? Anything the club can do?
It's very difficult. People talk about singing sections. You see, like at other grounds that we go to around the country, they've got like ultras or whatever, or there's like singing sections and whatnot. I don't know if that's a route you go down, but yeah, it's tricky. It is difficult. I don't really know what the solution is, but the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge is not particularly good.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Nina?
Yeah, it needs to be better.
I don't know. For me, obviously, I started going to the games consistently at the Bridge in Conte's second season. That's when I first got my season ticket. And I do think it's just got worse and worse and worse. And even you can feel it in some of the bigger games where, especially we weren't a pressing team under Conte. We used to sit back quite a lot. And I remember when Liverpool came or Tottenham came, first 20 minutes, even if nothing happened, the atmosphere would be brilliant.
I think it's different when you're winning though. When you're winning and you're successful,
No,
that probably generates a better atmosphere.
Well, of course we were a better outfit, but the concept is the same. No, you still have that support, and you've got the same. Well, arguably a lot of the same people that were there even 6 years ago, whatever it was. And now I struggle to see, even after an amazing, goal or whatever it is, that people really get up for it. Maybe VAR's a factor.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something else. I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that we've got younger fans coming in, tourists. I mean, it could be anything, but I don't feel that same energy in the Bridge and that togetherness in terms of getting chants going and actually doing it as a stadium.
But there's not.
Compared to what we have.
There's not. But let's be real. Just last thing quickly is that when you make so much of the ground hospitality, when really it's only two stands that make any noise, it's going to be difficult. It's literally Matthew Arden in the shed. East and West stand don't offer anything.
It's true.
Sorry if I've offended anyone that sits there, but like I'm sure there's some people that might try and get some stuff going, but generally speaking, those two stands don't offer anything.
Mate, if you stand up in the West Stand, they honestly tell you to sit down. That's what they do.
Yeah, no, it's embarrassing.
It's not.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. And there are people who want to sing and they just can't. But yeah, big up to you guys. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching the podcast as well. Let us know, what did you think about the protest outside Stamford Bridge? Do you think it was embarrassing? That's what some people said. Do you think that actually a lot of the fans did very well, and you're happy that the turnout was as good as it was? And what was your thoughts on the game as well? And where can you see Chelsea finishing at the end of this season? Big up to everyone, and we will catch up very, very soon.